For thousands of years, great cities have risen, thrived, and then vanished without a trace. Some were swallowed by fire, some buried under the ash of volcanoes, and others disappeared so completely that their names were nearly forgotten. These were not small villages or forgotten outposts. They were the centers of mighty empires, hubs of culture, trade, and innovation. They were homes to tens of thousands of people, built with brilliance and ambition. And yet, almost overnight, many of these cities were silenced, murdered by nature, war, or forces that remain a mystery even today. When you walk through their ruins today, you can almost feel the echoes of the lives that once filled the streets, the markets, the temples. Children laughed here, leaders ruled here, families built their futures here. But one day, everything ended, and what was left behind was rubble, ashes, and questions. And here's something important. Do not click away, because the final city on this list is perhaps the most famous, the most mysterious, and the most debated in all of history. It is a story that challenges everything we think we know about the past. So stick with me until the very end, because I promise you will not want to miss it. Let's move to Chapter 2. Our journey begins with one of the oldest cities ever discovered, a place that existed nearly 9,000 years ago, Çatalhöyük, in what is now Turkey. Imagine a city built long before the pyramids, long before Stonehenge, long before written history even began. Here, thousands of people lived side by side in mud brick homes that were so close together that the only way in was through the roof. Instead of streets, the city was a maze of rooftops, with ladders leading down into family homes, and then it ended. Around 5700 BCE, Çatalhöyük was suddenly abandoned. Thousands of people left behind their homes, their shrines, their entire way of life. But why? The truth is, no one really knows. Some historians believe disease spread through the tightly packed homes, turning the city into a deadly trap. Others think overpopulation led to conflict and collapse. There is also the possibility that environmental changes, drought, famine, or flooding forced the people to leave. Çatalhöyük is a reminder that even from the very beginning, the story of cities has been one of brilliance and sudden destruction. And as we move forward on this list, the endings only grow more violent, more mysterious, and even more shocking. Let's move to Chapter 3 from the ancient ruins of Turkey. We now cross the ocean to North America, where a forgotten city once rose on the banks of the Mississippi River. Today, when people think of great civilizations, they imagine Egypt, Mesopotamia, or Rome. But almost no one knows that in the heart of the United States, there once stood a city larger than London in its time. Its name is Cahokia. Around the year 1100 CE, Cahokia was the center of a powerful culture. More than 20,000 people lived here, building massive earthen pyramids, ceremonial plazas, and complex neighborhoods. The largest mound, known as Monk's Mound, still towers nearly 100 feet into the sky. From the top, leaders could look out over a city that was bustling with trade, rituals, and political power. Why did Cahokia fall? Some researchers believe climate change caused long droughts that starved the crops. Others point to overpopulation, disease, or warfare between rival groups. There is also evidence of mass deforestation that may have destroyed the environment the people depended on. But no single answer explains how such a great city could be abandoned so quickly. Cahokia is proof that forgotten civilizations are not just myths in faraway lands. They existed right in the heart of the modern world, only to vanish in silence. And if this is what happened to America's first great city, then the cities that follow on this list will leave you even more stunned. Let's move to Chapter 4. Deep in the jungles of Guatemala lies the ruined city of Tikal, once one of the most powerful capitals of the ancient Maya civilization. Rising above the treetops are towering stone pyramids, some more than 200 feet tall, carved with images of kings and gods. 1,000 years ago, these temples were painted in bright colors. The plazas were alive with music, and tens of thousands of people filled the streets. Tikal was not just a city, it was a kingdom, a place where astronomy, art, and warfare shaped every part of life. For centuries, Tikal flourished. Its rulers built massive monuments, recorded their histories in hieroglyphs, and fought rival kingdoms in battles that spread across the Maya world. At its peak, Tikal may have been home to more than 100,000 people, making it one of the largest and most advanced cities in the Americas. What happened here? Archaeologists have discovered evidence of severe droughts that struck the region, making it harder and harder to grow food. Others point to overpopulation, political turmoil, and wars that drained the city's strength. Some believe all of these pressures combined until the city finally collapsed under its own weight. When Tikal was rediscovered in the 19th century, explorers could hardly believe that such a massive city had existed in total silence for so long. And yet, it is only one of many Maya cities that share the same mysterious fate. If entire kingdoms of stone can be swallowed by time, how many more ancient cities remain undiscovered beneath the forests of the world? The story of Tikal reminds us that even the mightiest civilizations are not eternal. And as we continue down this list, the cities that follow met their end in ways even more violent, more dramatic, and more shocking. Let's move to Chapter 5. On the banks of the Tigris River, in what is now Iraq, stood a city that once ruled the ancient world, Nineveh, the mighty capital of the Assyrian Empire. For centuries, Nineveh was a place of power, wealth, and fear. Its massive walls stretched nearly 8 miles, fortified with towers so tall they seemed impossible to conquer. Inside those walls stood palaces decorated with carvings of kings and warriors, gardens filled with exotic plants, and perhaps the most important library of the ancient world. At its height in the 7th century BCE, Nineveh was the largest city on earth. Merchants traded goods from across the empire. Scribes copied texts onto clay tablets, and armies marched out to conquer distant lands. To its people, it must have felt eternal, too powerful to ever fall. Today, Nineveh is a ruin. Its once mighty walls are broken, its palaces long gone. But its story remains a reminder that no empire, no matter how powerful, is invincible. The fall of Nineveh was so complete that for centuries, people debated whether it had even existed at all. If a city as vast and as feared as Nineveh could vanish almost overnight, then what about the other ancient capitals of the world? The cities that follow on this list reveal even more shocking ends, some wiped out by nature itself, others swallowed by mysteries that still defy explanation. Let's move to Chapter 6. Hidden in the rugged hills of central Turkey lies the ancient city of Hattusa, once the mighty capital of the Hittite Empire. More than 3,000 years ago, the Hittites were one of the superpowers of the ancient world. They built palaces with massive stone gates, carved with lions and sphinxes. Their armies clashed with pharaohs of Egypt, even signing one of the world's first known peace treaties after the famous Battle of Kadesh. To their neighbors, the Hittites were both feared and respected. Hattusa itself was a marvel of engineering. Its walls stretched for miles, encircling temples, royal residences, and fortresses. The city controlled trade routes, commanded armies, and was filled with records carved onto clay tablets. From here, the kings of the Hittites ruled an empire that stretched across Anatolia and into the Levant. And then, in the late 12th century BCE, Hattusa was abandoned and destroyed. The fall was sudden and complete. Archaeologists have uncovered signs of fire, collapsed structures, and evidence that the once great city was reduced to rubble almost overnight. The Hittite Empire, which had stood for centuries, simply vanished from history. What happened? The answer lies in what historians call the Bronze Age collapse, a period when multiple civilizations across the eastern Mediterranean fell one after another. Egypt weakened, Mycenaean Greece crumbled, cities in the Levant were burned, and Hattusa was caught in the storm. Some blame invasions by mysterious groups known as the Sea Peoples. Others point to climate change, famine, and rebellion. Perhaps it was all of these forces combined, striking at once and leaving the ancient world in chaos. For centuries, the very memory of the Hittites was erased. Their language forgotten, their empire unknown, their capital buried beneath the earth. It was until the late 19th century that explorers rediscovered Hattusa and realized an entire civilization had been missing from history books. The ruins of Hattusa stand today as a reminder of how fragile empires really are. Even the most powerful kingdoms can collapse in the face of disaster. And as we move forward in this list, the cities that follow reveal endings just as violent and, in some cases, even more mysterious.